Hello and welcome to Keep It Local. Today on Keep It Local, it's called the 8th Wonder of the World, but this unusual museum won't be keeping Portland weird for much longer. We'll take you to the Velveteria for one final look. Plus, what to do when your partner doesn't support your resolution for a new you. Our relationship expert, Julie Jeske, has some answers. Julie Jeske is with us now, our relationship expert. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, great. How are you?
Good. Happy New Year.
Thank you, and to you. I was a little jealous I didn't get to talk to Mario about sex and relationships yesterday. I would have had a few things to ask him.
We didn't have much of a chance either because we asked him about his dating life and he was
kind of
pretty bummed.
That,
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm sure he has a busy social calendar. Okay, so we wanted to ask you, you know, a lot of couples made like New Year's resolutions. How hard is it for some of these couples to like keep those resolutions? Like say they set a goal or one of them sets a goal and to have that support from the other person.
It can be tricky. I mean, like any resolution, people are really kind of full of energy in the beginning and things may peter off a little bit. So it's going to take that energy to be reminding yourself over and over again of what that goal is and how you can get there. What's really hard is if one person's interested in this change or this resolution and the other person isn't. That can make it really difficult.
So how do you get around that? Because that is a problem so often for all of us.
That's when compromise comes into play. I mean, if one person says, I want to make a resolution, let's say I want to make a resolution to have a date every week.
Right.
And the other person's like, absolutely not, I will not do that, I don't have time, we don't have money, whatever it is, talking about why you want that date, talking about why that's important to you can soften your partner, or talking about why you're resistant to something can help the other partner understand. And then you may be able to say, okay, well, we can't do that every week, we can do it every other week. Or what can we do instead of that? You know, maybe changing the resolution. If one person is just unwilling to budge, that's a big problem.
And what about if, like, say I made a resolution that I was going to eat more healthy, and then I go out and buy candy bars, and I could totally see this happening. Then my husband would lecture me and be like, well, I thought you were going to, you know, eat more healthy. I mean, how do you balance that? Because then I would get mad, probably.
And then you get defensive, or you know, get disappointed. It's my resolution, and then you just throw it all away, right? So asking for the kind of support that you want around your resolutions, you know, if you may need a little extra help, letting your partner know, and if you have limits, letting them know that too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Julie, thank you so much. We're going to be back with you in just a little bit. Welcome back to Keep It Local. On Wednesdays, we get a chance to sit around and chat about relationships because Julie Jeske is in the studio now, and she is going to tell us all about what? About keeping resolutions, about keeping your relationships good in the new year.
And asking your partner, you know, for what you want without coming off weird. Okay, so here was my example. I was telling
like, are you going to share it, or should I prompt it?
Big question.
So I was telling you that my husband, I mean, great guy, great cook, but kind of a slob.
Okay.
And by kind of, I mean totally a slob. And I feel like I don't want to ask him to like clean things up because I feel like a nag. Like I feel like then I come off like the bad guy, and like the naggy wife.
Or,
and so I don't know how to ask him nicely to do stuff, because then I get, you know, then I just end up doing it, but then I kind of,
and then you're fuming.
Resent. Yes. So what's my solution? Tell me.
Well, the first thing to point out is how, you know, is the fear of asking for what you want or asking for help. And there's a couple reasons that usually happens. One, like you're talking about, fear of coming off as bossy or as a nag or as being demanding. You know, we don't like to come off that way. Another thing is feeling guilty, like, oh, I should just want what I have. I don't want to have to ask for something else. I feel bad about it. And many women were raised to be caretakers, you know, like our mothers. And so we feel like we should just be taking care of all these people. We feel bad when we want something in return. And men, you know, we're raised to be, you know, raise yourself up by your bootstraps and be independent, so it's hard for them to ask for what they want sometimes too. And there's also that fear of disappointment. You know, if I ask my husband for what I want and he says no, then what do I do?
You know, on that point about the men and how they're independent, I think also then it's hard for them sometimes to understand why you want their help with something, because there is that sense of, well, I could do it myself, you should be able to do it yourself.
And we're such independent people now, you know, we're working and we're raising families and we're doing it all on our own. We don't live close to our other families sometimes. We don't have, you know, aunts and uncles and grandparents helping out the way that we did in past generations, and so we're very independent. We're not used to asking for some help. So in your case, starting with, you know, I think you're such a great cook, and I totally appreciate that you do that.
Yeah.
And it would really make me feel good if you could help out with this too. How do you feel about that? Can we come up with some kind of a bargain, right?
Okay.
So that you're not being naggy. You're not being naggy when you say, I love how you do this.
Right.
And could you help me with this?
Because yeah, I mean, it used to be, you know, he would leave trash, and I'd be like, what's going on here with this? And you know, we kind of make a joke out of it. But now with 2 young kids, it's like, I'm just tired, and I get home and I don't want to have to pick up
when you're tired, you don't ask in the way that comes across very warm sometimes, right? You're not even asking, maybe you're demanding. When we're tired, it's like, all bets are off. You know, things are coming out the way that we don't necessarily intend them to.
Why is it so important to ask? At some point, it seems, in a relationship, you get to a point where you're like, well, of course we need this done, and so one of us has to do it, and I'm busy with this, so just do it. What is that about asking that continues to be important?
It's so important because you can't get what you want if you don't ask for it. It's like we just, you know, we think people can read our minds sometimes. We want people, desperately want them to read our minds. We want them, you know, get in a relationship and get married and be whisked off into this magical life. And sometimes that happens, but most of the time it doesn't. So if there's something missing, there's no way for your partner to know you want it unless you speak your mind about it, right? And so we talked about starting with something warm, you know, like I love how you do this, and could you do this, or would you be willing to try this, or how do you feel about this, you know? Starting with something really small, you know, practicing asking. If you've never asked for something before, you may not want to ask to be taken away on a, you know, 1-month vacation to Europe or something. You know, if you really want an overnight getaway and you want your mother-in-law to babysit the kids, you may, and you've never asked for something like that, you may start with like, will you watch the kids for an hour while I go get a pedicure? You know, start out small. Practice. Ask for something you know you'll get a yes to, right? Because the more yeses you get, the more confident you'll be, the easier it'll be to ask for something else.
And then what happens when you get to that point where they just say no? The mother-in-law says, you know what? No, I don't really feel comfortable, or I don't want to do that, or your partner says
then you know at least, right? You're not wondering, you're not wishing that they're going to come in and do something without, you know, knowing that you want it. And then you can have a conversation about it, like, well, what would you be willing to bend on? You know? And or do you have some ideas of someone else I could ask?
And by the way, I thought of you the other day. We ran a story at noon about the Japanese have this new device that can read minds, or they're saying it can read people's minds. And I thought, I don't know that I would want, you were just speaking of like, you can't read my mind. I don't know that you always want someone else to read your mind. So that's a future topic. But I thought of, what would Julie say about this?
All right. And I know at some point, too, we're going to be talking about division of labor in the home, because that's going to be an important one. So we'll have you back and talk to you about that soon.
Thanks, Julie.
All right. Thanks, Julie. Let's take a break now.